Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield, and we are ready for the USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship coming up this week in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Going to be a lot of fun. We are 2 days away from the start of the tournament, and I know this, I'm already seeing it, right? People screenshotting the weird holes, being like, this is the stupidest, gimmickiest, idiot course of all time. And then everybody's going to be watching the final round. I'm just telling you, like, there's something about being there in person that changes the way that you feel about this event. And I can understand, like, sitting at home and looking at some of these holes. And we're going to look at some of the holes that we do not like and be like, this is just so stupid. But a lot of the holes, they are tuned to require very specific things from players and therefore are very interesting. And there's a huge variety of shot making required. So we'll get into all that. Josh.
Yes.
Before we go on to USDGC preview stuff, we got to talk about the 2024 schedule. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has released the North American side of its schedule. And here's I'm going to just give you the headlines and then we can kind of dig into the details. Okay. Yep. The headlines. Biggest thing, number one, LVC out, Florida in. They're playing at the McCease property, Throwdown the Mountains, home turf. Florida Open, it's going to be called, and that's coming in the end of February, pretty much the same time slot as LVC. Otherwise, very similar looking schedule. The silver events have been eliminated. They are no more. So they're going to have some kind of announcement about some sort of qualifying tour, presumably through some kind of A-tier process. Whether that ends up looking like silver events without that as a name, I don't know. And like what that will mean for media and stuff is like totally up in the air. My guess is we're going to see a decrease in overall like live streaming because I can't imagine that all of the live streaming at those silver events was worthwhile. The other big notes, currently no other Elite Series scheduled for Europe besides the European Open. And speaking of Elite Series, they've changed the names and kind of the structure of these tournaments, including the point earning structure. Josh, I know you're going to love this. I love this. We now have DGPT, which are worth 100%, the standard 100 points for the winner. Then we have DGPT Plus events, 125%. Then we have DGPT playoff events, which are worth 150%. And then we have majors, which are worth 200%. Okay, so 200 points for the winner. Now, there's not a lot of details other than that yet, but we do know for sure that there is a very clear point hierarchy for the various levels of event. I think that's the biggest notes off the top. The only other tournament that's gone right now from last year as an elite event is PCS Open in Europe. And I would say that's probably going to be back in some capacity as a point earning tournament for the DGPT. I've talked long enough. Josh, initial reactions to the 2024 schedule.
I love the Florida change. I mean, that is a great property that has been lacking since it has been removed from any sort of elite status, and thrilled to have that one back on the schedule. And as an opener, I think it just makes a lot of sense, and I'm very, very excited. Plus, All-Star Weekend in Orlando. That also makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Like that feels like an all-star weekend, right? And the real resort. I'm excited for that event and think that is probably one of the best changes that it could have made. I just don't think that Vegas was cutting it on the tour. And, we've talked about that for years.
Vegas, by the way, posting on social media that they got blindsided, that there was no communication from the tour about it. If that's true, that's terrible. I mean, and I'm not saying that they can't take a tournament off their tour. Of course they can. I mean, we've literally sat on the show and said they should start in Florida and not in Vegas. But you still need to communicate to your partners and like someone who's been on your tour for years. But yeah, who knows?
I wonder if it was
just a social media post.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a question of like, were they going to be able to play the McCease property? and that probably
I'm sure was part of the
Right,
delay. I mean,
pending
I looked it up.
Yep.
Because I was like, what's the deal with this lawsuit right now?
Yeah.
It's still pending. There's been a bunch of paperwork filed. Macbeth and Dylan Cease have replied and been like, these claims are all spurious, typical just lawyer stuff.
Right.
But there's been no actual like adjudication yet.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm assuming that they are at least comfortable enough that they're ready to start the tour there, and I wonder if that's kind of the delay, if that social media post is true. I've seen a lot of people kind of upset about the lack of West Coast events.
Yeah, I was interested to get your take as someone who's going to be pretty far away from many of the stops. We'll put the map up so you can see just how stark the difference is between Midwest, East, and West.
Yeah. Well, so Charlie, off the top of your head, how many elite events were there on the West Coast last year?
Elite,
yeah.
Portland, OTB, and maybe that was it.
And Vegas. If you
Vegas.
count Vegas, right? So
sure.
There's the same number of elite events. Now, that was supplemented with 3 silver events,
right?
Which was Cascade Challenge, you had Beaver State Fling, and you had the Zootown Open. Now, with silver events gone, and we don't know. I'm kind of in the point where I'm like withholding judgment a little bit. But at the end of the day, I didn't care that much about silver events. I watched them. I thought it was fun to watch Zootown because it highlighted a course that I've played personally and was around a lot. But like silver events just weren't that impactful to me anyway. So this schedule feels pretty similar to what it's always been, and so I just am not in quite the same outrage as other people. Over the schedule. I will continue to say that I think that the Rocky Mountain West deserves an event. What that event is, I think Colorado is a prime location, and especially around the Denver area. You have a major metropolitan area and flights. But again, I understand the constraints around Rocky Mountain Disc Golf. It is very difficult for coverage. Yep. The live. Yep. I mean, we've talked about all these things.
A lot of the courses maybe just not up to snuff either.
Right. I mean, Utah Open again, bringing that back. But I mean, I know there were complaints about the fort and the quality of it and whether or not it was Pro Tour quality. And so I understand those concerns. And I'll be honest with you, I would rather have a blank gap in that schedule than for them to bring back something like the Memorial LVC. I care more about the quality of the elite events, and if they don't have a course that's up to those standards, then I would prefer that it's just not there.
Yeah, but I have some thoughts here, some good and some bad. Okay, so good for sure. Florida start. I'm excited about that. It makes the driving logistics so much better for players too, because you're not having to go from Las Vegas, then like all the way across the East Coast, and then all the way back to the West Coast. Because Vegas is pretty far west. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is not that far from Los Angeles,
right?
So that I think just like logically, this has been an inevitable outcome eventually. So that's good. I like that Beaver State Fling has been upgraded back to a standard Elite Series event. I think Oregon can handle, and like the Portland area can handle having 2 events. And whether that ends up becoming one event that's merged into 2 or something like that in the future, we'll see how it plays when we have the double combo. I do think, and some people have pointed this out, but I'm not sure that it was any different in the past. People are like, well, people are just going to skip the West Coast swing because why bother? Why go all the way to California to play 3 tournaments when you could just, take a month off tour and save all the driving money and stuff? Like, and that is possible. Without more West Coast events, people might do that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I also really like the new point structure. Mm-hmm. I think it's just awesome to have the incentives aligned the way that we all feel like they should be.
Yes.
Like majors should be worth the most. And so credit to the Pro Tour for doing that, even though they could choose to, boost their own tournaments over the majors, or at least on level playing field, even though like that's not how people think about it. So big credit to them for that. Negatives for me. Too much Texas.
Oh, my gosh.
Josh, we're back for... It's going to be...
4. It's 4 now. Oh, my gosh. This is unbelievable. I'm so mad.
Okay, so we get to Waco March 7th, and we don't get out of Texas. The next tournament start date is Jonesboro out of Texas, and it's April 12th. Over 1 month, we are going to be playing in Texas tournaments. And I just don't know if like Open at Austin, Texas States are going to deliver. I don't really feel like they delivered in the past. Like Open at Austin was not, I mean, I get it's in Austin. You basically have to have a tournament in Austin given the crowd and the, just a great market for disc golf. But good Lord, I hope they improve the course because it was just, I don't even remember that course.
Either.
Most forgettable tournament of the year. Texas State's already got dropped from the tour. And so now they're adding it back. And then, of course, we also have U.S. Women's, which, they're like basically building new courses for. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. I get Texas is a big disc golf state. We literally have this conversation 1,000 times, but man, over a month is kind of brutal.
Yeah. Here's the pluses of the Texas swing. Waco's adding another course. It's now a 4-round tournament, and they'll have 2 courses. It's also a DGPT Plus event. I really hope that I hope that second course kind of changes it up and gives it a different feel. I'm going to be engaged in U.S. Women's either way, but man, I already don't care about the Open at Austin.
Waco has like established itself enough. It's pretty interesting. They moved that to a DGPT Plus, Josh.
I saw that.
And I was surprised because I thought that there was no way that they were going to be able to get the purse up enough to make that a DGPT Plus. There must be something cooking there. Because that Waco's generally been one of the lowest purses on tour.
Well, actually, this year, it was lower, but it wasn't the lowest. There were a handful of events that were lower. Sure. The other part, though, that with 4 courses, I would imagine they're able to add a larger field, and because now you can run an A pool and a B pool and run people on the other course, or split the FPO and MPO side playing different courses, which.
Fastest way to a bigger purse is more players.
That's exactly right. So makes sense. Yeah. One other negative: Champions Cup end of the season.
Look, we already talked about that part, but let me just highlight this. Okay, we do not have we get to August 20th. Okay, and in that time there has been 1 MPO major, European Open, and 2 FPO, and then from August 21st to the end of October. We have 3 majors and 2 playoff events and the DGPT Championship, all in basically 2 months. It's too much. It's way, way, way too backloaded. And even with Champions Cup being in the spring, it would still probably be a little too backloaded, or it would maybe feel. But this makes it so much worse. I still hope that the PDGA changes course and finds a weekend. I think there's a free weekend in April time that they could slot it in. Looks like the last weekend in April or the first weekend in April would both be options. The fact that this is announced means it's probably not going to happen, but I still am hopeful.
Let me give you another just addition, right? Prior to July 18th, which is when the European Open happens, you have U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship and 2 Elite Plus events. After starting July 18th, you have 4 MPO majors, 2 DGPT Plus events, both playoff events. So they didn't even stagger the DGPT Plus events earlier in the season. There are 2 events. 2 events.
I won't blame people who are like, I'm just not gonna tune in until July or August. How can you blame somebody?
Joma is till July.
I'm sure people are still going to want to everybody's itching for disc golf in February when we haven't had it for a while. But it feels like it's going to drag. I got to be honest. This really breaks the rhythm that the Champions Cup was the thing we needed for balance in the schedule, and we've basically lost it. And I understand why, but
well, and here's the other thing is I really enjoy the West Coast swing. I think they're different and unique courses, but the slog from March 15th of Open at Austin, U.S. Women's great, Texas State's, Jonesboro, Music City, DDO, that is just a brutal stretch of golf. That's any of those events by themselves, I'm fine with, but I don't know.
I feel like we get the best 2 courses of the whole stretch right at the start.
Yeah.
Throw it on the mountain and then Brazos. you're like, okay,
Great, cool.
and then it's just going to be like flat pancake world for months. And I'm sorry, like I think generally the schedule still feels a little too heavy on the Midwest of the U.S. right now, and like prioritizing development of courses in more, hilly, mountainous parts of the country, like has got to be priority. But you can't create people in the mountains. Like people live in cities,
Right.
and like Denver, for instance, you're like, oh, Denver, it's a mountain, but no, it's not. Denver is flat
Right.
as heck. Like they have terrible disc golf courses there. And so you can go 2 hours into the Rockies and find a disc golf course, but then you're really not by the people.
Right.
So it's like hard to have fans. So I understand the both sides of it, but I think overall this is moving in a better direction in terms of clarity. It's like everything is basically the same, and we have these tiering of events that makes more sense. Remember what this year playoffs of plus, this is the same thing.
And majors.
Distinction. And majors.
They're all the same.
It was crazy. So now we have this delineation. There's no silver complication you have to explain to people anymore. It's just like we have these tournaments.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
The things that feel the most in their power, it feels like they did right.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking USDGC. We're making our picks. We're giving you our top 3 and bottom 3 holes at Winthrop Gold.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the US, employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality US materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
Welcome back to the Upshot. So we're headed to south of Charlotte in Rock Hill, South Carolina for the USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. Lots on the line. It's a major for the men. It's a quasi-major for the women. Kristen Tatar going for the Super Slam, trying to close out this season with a couple more wins and really cement this as one of the great, if not number one seasons all time in FPO. And then we've got big question marks in MPO about like who's the favorite. Can Isaac Robinson win a third major this season? Can Gannon go back-to-back at USDGC? Can Calvin finally get off the schneid and win a major? There's a bunch of players on that list. Matty O, after tasting Elite Series success, maybe a chance to win his first major. And Eagle has, trying to break a streak of not winning. He's won every year for, 5 years, a big tournament on tour, and he'd sure like to get his first USDGC. He comes in as the win probability favorite on UDisc. So we will make our picks in a little bit. Josh, quickly, Monday qualifying happened yesterday. Who got in?
Yeah, so over on the FPO side, you had 2 players for the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. Sandra Richardson and Cynthia Ricciardi both make it in out of 12 players. Men's side, man, those were odds that you did not want.
There's so many players.
You had 123 if you include DNFs. Wow. 3 DNFs, so 123 total registered players, 120.
3 DNFs. People just like, I can't take it anymore.
I guess.
I'm getting killed.
So 120 players carded a score for this event, and only 5 got in. Those 5, John B., that's all it is listed as on UDisc. I don't know how that happened. But John B., just the letter B, Luke Callahan, Zach Melton, Nathaniel Johnson, and Randon Lata are the ones who make it in from Monday qualifier.
Love it. Got to go earn it sometimes.
That's right.
That's got to feel good to get in. All right. So we're going to do our top 3 and bottom 3 holes at Winthrop. Let's start with the good. And there's a lot of good holes out here. Like going through the actual caddy book and thinking about each of the holes, there's definitely more good than bad. And so, Josh, where do you go for your? Let's start with your number 3 hole.
Yeah. Number 3 hole for me is hole 5. Hole 5 has the long 1,061 foot on the MPO side. It is a hole to me that I think it'd be a good hole on other courses. And I would enjoy it just about on any course, because I think that the risk reward of the island is very challenging. And I also really appreciate the pin positions of this hole and the way they've moved it back, kind of around the island, that drastically changes the risk reward of that shot. The island, quote unquote, the pin position.
Peninsula,
yeah.
You have to throw effectively to an island. There's a lot of room on the backside, obviously, but the MPO cannot go around the horn,
right,
around the tree. They have to play it over the water, making it effectively a water carry island hole shot.
Feels like one, right?
Yeah.
The reason it gets such a high level for me is I think it gives an opportunity for players to air it out, at least on the first and usually second shots, in a way that this course doesn't often allow. You highlighted earlier at the intro that this course is one that demands a lot of specific shots. And that's true. And hole 5 is the opposite of that. And it feels like a nice break right in the middle, where it comes from, you have the technical short par 4, the technical par 3. Hole 6 is pretty touchy shot. Hole 7 is the clown's mouth. And I guess clown's mouth is the gate, right? The bamboo wall. And so it's a nice break. I think it's a good place for flow, and it's a really excellent hole in terms of offering risk reward and shot variety.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I think part of the one thing that I didn't make my top 3, but it's a good hole. I don't love the first 2 shots always if players are playing really conservative.
That's fair.
But we've seen Double G get an eagle here. Yep. He did it in 2020. Kevin Jones threw it in from 370 feet or something for eagle. I love that that's an option when the wind is correct and like you can be risk taking and throw down a roller. So I think that's all pretty cool. My number 3 hole is hole 15. Hole 15 is the one with the triple mando that you got to hit the gap and then take the sharp left turn, but you got to get it through the gap and past the initial guardian trees. And it's got the super like dark shaded green with a lot of trees, dense. I still remember, was this 2 years ago? I think whenever Macbeth won against Klein in the playoff, there was like this shot of him putting back to the basket, like super backlit, and it was just like,
I remember Macbeth that shot. Yeah.
So I don't love everything about this hole, but I love the triple mando. I love the line this requires, and great shots on this hole are some of the most exciting on the course, I think.
The other thing I'll add is that the green is wooded enough that it makes people straddle putt or Annie putt or, change up their putt variety, but not so thick that like, oh, I'm 15 feet away and I can't get my disc to the basket.
Totally. There's always a lane.
Nice balance.
But yes, agreed. And it's a unique green on this course.
Yeah.
My number 2 is hole 6. I think a lot of people are probably going to be surprised that I would choose this hole. This is the beach hole.
I love this.
To me, this is like a perfect par 3. It's a perfect par 3. It's not that hard. You can definitely get a birdie. And there's something very aesthetically pleasing to me about using the beach as a sticking point that stops you from going into the water. And so if you throw a clean shot here, it comes out wide on the hyzer, little skip, and just softly into the sand, and you have a tap-in birdie. But, if you get it wrong, if you're early, if you overskip it, if you throw it too high, you're going in the water. And then you have a scary putt from circle 2 back towards the water, which is makeable. So you can still save par, but you can also end up taking bogey. And I don't know. It's just like, to me, it's just like the absolute best par 3 on the course. A beautiful hole.
I think that is an underrated choice, Charlie. I really like that one. Hole, for me, my number 2, hole 18. I think hole 18 is an excellent hole. And in terms of par 4s, as par 4s go for hole 18, it's one of the best. It is a very technical and demanding first shot. It is an opportunity and birdie is absolutely gettable, but even playing conservative for par is something that is very risky. And I even with 2 strokes, I always come into this hole with a question mark, because you could absolutely be trying to play for par and safe and screw up and bogey. And so that, to me, a hole that I can walk up to, and the players are walking up and I say, there are 2 strokes separating the leader in second place, and it is still an interesting game. That to me is what I want out of a hole 18. I will say, though, I don't love the green. I wish the green could get changed a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mentioned this. There's possibility in the future that they're going to make a significant change to the green.
Yeah.
I talked about this in a Rapid Reacts for subscribers. So we'll see. It didn't happen this year. It sounds like they may have to do some lake management. I'm not totally sure. Like the university might have to drain the lake and do some infrastructure changes because of some sort of landscaping problem. So I don't know what the timeline is, but I would expect this hole to change because it's not a good hole for viewers on site. You can't see what's going on. I bet they're going to have, if they don't already, like a video board in the area where you can watch the camera feed.
Definitely
from 18.
hope so.
But yeah, like this is my hole number 1. This is my top hole. I think 18 gets overlooked because of 17, and 18 is maybe my favorite hole 18 on tour. It's up there. Downward sloping, dangerous, rollaway potential fairway. So like how you land the disc is very important. Every little bit of additional distance you get helps you get the birdie. That's not true on a lot of holes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can be 50 feet forward or back, and it basically doesn't change the next shot. On this hole, you being further up makes you have like less angle to go up and then down, and just makes getting around the corner more possible. And you see the mistakes. You see the people go short into the trees. They go long into the OB past, like by the big tree up on top of the hill. It's just an awesome hole. People talk about 17, and I think, Josh, maybe you're going to talk about 17, but 18 is truly the gem at the end of this course.
I would agree. I think 18 is a better, is a better hole design, but I do give 17 number 1 in my book, and here's why. It has the mental game of just that I want out of a major. If I were to take any pro and put them on a 250-foot hole and said, put a disc inside circle 1, I guarantee every pro could do it. And they could probably do it 10 times out of 10, right? That is not a hard shot to execute for pros. But when you sit there and you look at a 250-foot hole that you know that you can birdie, so you don't want to just bail out, because par is actually really easy to get on this hole if you have a serviceable forehand. You could bail out clear to the large right side of the island,
sure, pitch
up, and get your par every time. Do players do that? No, they don't. And so they have to go through the gauntlet that the mental game is of 17. It is memorable. It is great for it. Like, you can spectate it easily.
It's legendary.
It's legendary. And I love the drama that comes from it. And yes, people say it's gimmicky, but guess what? It's 250 feet. Every pro should be able to do it. And so if they don't, it's because this course beat them. And I love that. Hole 17 gets my number 1 spot.
It's a classic. I think it'll be in a lot of people's top 3 and maybe at the number 1 spot, like it is for you. For me, it just missed the cut because the hole itself is not that good.
No,
it's fine. It's more the mental pressure of the hole that makes it interesting.
Yeah.
And I respect that. It's important to have a hole like that. I think this has set the standard for like holes down the back 9, like coming down the stretch. Courses have a hole like this, and it makes it memorable.
Yep.
Go back to European Open.
Yeah.
Right. Like, think about the drama that we got on 16. Yep. So yeah, totally get it. All right. Bottom 3 holes. We actually have the same 3 holes in slightly different order. So I'll go, my number 3 is hole 2. Why did they change this hole?
I don't know.
I think maybe they changed it because they wanted to have more space over like on the right-hand side where the original tee was for like player zone or something. But now it just is a bad hole. I don't like the tee shot anymore. I find it just like I don't know. It was much better as a par 3 with a low ceiling, and now it just feels like a kind of a weird parking lot hole. I'm not a fan anymore.
Yeah, my third, so that takes my number 2 spot, but for me, the number 3 spot goes to hole 11. This is the weird, like pockets of rocks that are OB. It doesn't offer, I think, meaningful risk reward. There's one landing zone where everybody's going to play to.
Everyone plays the same shot
every time, and it is boring. I don't think there's a lot of risk. If you mess up, it's because you truly screwed up. And
you can't get a 2.
Here's the other problem. It's in a stretch of holes that aren't that good. Like it's the worst stretch of the course, and it's the highlight of that worst stretch. That's I find kind of boring.
Along the road, all those big open park,
Yeah.
like wide open holes, no trees except on the left side. And it's
Bad
this
hole.
holes I think should be basically completely redesigned.
Yeah.
I don't know what they should do, but it's not interesting right now.
Yep. And
That's my number 2.
Okay.
My number 1, also your number 1, hole 9.
Garbage.
Come on. What is this hole? Like, deservedly getting criticized. I mean, last year with the spooky trees on this hole. Remember, this is the one with the trees, the fake trees right off the tee, like literally like 5 feet in front of the tee.
This is where mozzarella sticks got introduced.
Right.
The tall ones that are right off the tee.
It's just, I'm sorry. There's a level of like contrived that I'm okay with, and this goes beyond it. And like, the hole itself isn't really like, it's not terrible, but it's just the weakest hole in the course. And the only thing that they could think to do to make this hole challenging enough to be worthy was put fake Christmas trees in front of the tee pad. That's just like, imagine saying that to somebody at a party. Like, yeah, we play this hole. I play disc golf and like, check out this hole and like show them a picture of it. It's just like, what is this? And I don't mind some of the other stuff, the pillars by the baskets.
I
and
like the rocks.
The rocks in the fairway is a cool addition last year for visual clarity. But this one, no. Come on.
Definitely the worst hole.
All right, time to get to our picks. Josh, here we go. Look, there's not much more you need to say about this course. Everybody knows what Winthrop Gold is. There's very few meaningful substantive changes this year. Basically nothing of note. There's a couple AB pin locations, but it's the same USDGC layout that we've had now for like 2 years. So nothing drastic at all. So let's begin in the throw pink side, and then we'll pick our MPO major side. Josh, where are you going in FPO?
In third spot, I've got Big Money Missy. I think that she is the only winner who has a shot of podium. Previous winner who has a shot of podium, being on the podium at this event this year. Katrina Allen, defending champion last year, nowhere to be seen lately, and unpickable for this podium. But Missy is the only other player who has played here. This is the third year that this tournament has been in place, and so Missy's won it, and I think she deserves the credit of being on the podium. So I give her the 3. My number 2 spot is Own. We spent a long time talking about Own, and I have
the dog
convinced myself I probably wouldn't have picked her just on face value from last year, but I just wanted to so vehemently defend Own and how good she is, that because I have failed to do so at times, and so I stepped in and made the case for Own. Listen to last week's show if you didn't hear it, because Own really has demonstrated a ceiling at this course that is a high enough potential to win. The question is, will she keep it clean? My number 1 pick, though, Kristen Tatar. Super Slam. It's a case at this point sheerly of odds, right? If I've got someone with 75% win chance, and I think that number's pretty accurate, I just can't pick against her.
I get that. But sometimes you got to know when someone else is going to win. And this week, I know that. I got Owen Scoggins my 3. She just, what was I ever thinking doubting her in any way?
Right.
Back on the podium, baby. She didn't finish that high last year, but we talked about it a week or two ago. She's, a couple tens away from having a really good tournament. So, Kristen is in my 2 spot. Obviously going to put her on the podium. But I think, and I said this right after U.S. Women's, and I've been saying it for weeks, Hannah Blomroos is going to win this tournament. She was very close last year. I thought she was the most impressive player overall. And, the putting obviously is a huge issue, and it may rear its head again. And she may fail to win again because of the putting. I fully acknowledge that. But I just think that with Kristen having completed the major quest, this is going to be a off-focus weekend for Tatar. And
very real threat.
Like, it happens to her.
Yes.
We see it again and again. And I think an off-focus weekend is enough for Hannah to take this one. I think it's I think she can do it. And I love her game at this course. You know, people say you need a forehand, but James Conrad proved us wrong.
Yes, he did.
On the MPO side, I'm going Nicholas Antila.
Great pick.
You know, I was a little skeptical because it's not like he's really been in the conversation all that much this year, but I just think his game fits so well at Winthrop. It's like a glove. You know, he was 13th at MVP Open last year. You're like, okay, no one was picking Nicholas to do things at USDGC.
No.
And then he showed up and was right there. Could have won. So this year, 11th at MVP. I expect him to be right back in the conversation again this season. I've got Kyle Klein in the 2 spot. We know Kyle Klein can play great here. He's come as close as anybody to winning without actually doing it after going to the playoff with Macbeth. But in the 1 spot, you know what? I think it's his time, Josh. I think Eagle McMahon is going to win this one finally. He has kind of had some like bad breaks at USDGC in the past, to be honest. I didn't even, that was unintentional. Oh no. But he has the right skills for this course, and you just don't need the outright monstrous power that he doesn't quite have as much anymore, at least on the forehand side, to be able to succeed. And so I don't know. This is just a gut feeling pick.
All right. Eagle and Henna. If I told you that at the beginning of the season, what would you have said? Or midway through, maybe. I love it. In my 3 spot, I've got Anthony Barella.
Okay. I love that pick.
Anthony Barella has played better golf this season than he has in his entire career. He finished 13th last year, but I think he's just on a whole nother plane this year than he was last year.
He's put some awesome rounds down
at
Winthrop.
Yes, he has. And so I think that he's going to be kind of in the mix. I don't think he's going to win, but I do think Anthony Barella can podium. In my 2 spot, I've got last year's winner, Gannon Burr. He plays well here. And the other thing about Gannon is he has a tendency to not show up the week before.
It's true.
And then to come back and play really well. So he has 6th place at Worlds. Pretty good finish. 11th at MVP, which I think he could have done better. That means he's coming back, and I think he's going to be in 2nd place. But my pick, 3-time major winner, Isaac Robinson.
Wow.
That's right.
Neither of us put Calvin on our podium? What are we doing?
It's a major.
Isaac. Oh my God, it would be an incredible story if he did it.
Let me give you the case, right? Number one.
What's the case?
Number one, he's got 2 of them, and he plays really well at the majors.
Okay.
How long has Isaac been on tour? This is his 2nd full season, right?
I think that's right.
Let me give you his USDGC stats, because he used to play like 3 events when he was in college. Sometimes 2. It was Ledgestone and USDGC. Those are the 2 events he always played.
Okay.
Here it is. In 2018, he was 61st. In 2019,
he's still like a little kid at that point.
Right. Yeah, he's 17 probably.
Okay.
2019, he's 21st.
Okay.
2020, 15th. 2021, 8th. 2022, 6th. I don't know of any player with that kind of consistency, even when they're not touring, right? Like that, he plays really well here, and he is playing his highest level of disc golf. The 6th place last year just gives me so much confidence to pick him for the win this year.
It's worth noting his event rating has also improved, which makes sense, I guess.
Right.
But you could see it as like maybe one year the weather was worse or something, but 1008, 1028, 1030, 1040, 1051 last year.
Yep.
You know, if you shoot over 1050, you got a chance to win.
Absolutely.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. That'd be something else, Josh, if Isaac got a 3rd one.
So I've also got an over-under for you.
Hit me.
This is from Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. The U.S. Women's payout was $11,000 to the winner this year.
Okay.
Last year, Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship was $10,000 to the winner. Over-under, $11,001 to the winner of the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship.
I'll go over.
You go over. Okay.
I think they're going to go to like 12-5.
I hope you're right, but we've seen some tournaments who just barely bump it up.
That's true.
So I hope you're right. And if it is, there's no reason this shouldn't be a major. That's make it a major.
I hear you. I mean, it's all but the letter next to it on the PDGA website.
Yeah.
I mean, it deserves the reverence of Winthrop and basically being a major.
Yes, it does.
It's a hard balance to strike in the booth, I will say.
I believe that.
And that's going to, how do you talk about it? It's like, well, it's an A tier, but it means more than that. Anyway, that's it for today. We'll be back with you for our daily rapid reacts during the tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. So make sure you join us with a subscription, discgolf.ultraworld.com/subscribe, and you can tune in every night live in our Discord as we break down the day's action. I will be down in Rock Hill commentating on FPO with Juliana Korver and Zoe Andike. And note, our free show of the week will probably be our Friday evening show. So we'll put that one up for free, so you can get a taste if you are still not yet a subscriber. But if you're not, what are you doing? Get in. It's less than $4 a month. All these rapid it's like a whole separate podcast.
It really
basically. All right. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we will talk to you from Rock Hill this week on the Upshot.